Hey y'all, my name is Farron Granland, and this is my first video. I just kind of wanted to talk about my experience with narcissistic abuse, toxic relationships, codependency, inner child wound, a lot of things that I've experienced in my life that have had, a negative and then a complete positive change for me. I'm super grateful to be alive today and to be well, especially through the coronavirus and everything that we're living through today, as times are quite scary and unknown. If you're watching this, thank you. But I'm doing this more for me than for anybody else, and I'm unsure if I will ever post this, so we will see. Today is April 10th, 2020, and I am 33 years old today. Woo woo! I haven't been this happy in a really long time. And all of that is stemming from the inner work that I'm doing on myself. I have had to remove a lot of people from my life, and that's been difficult, but the people in my life that I was choosing to have around, although toxic, they have helped me tremendously to realize my potential, my full value, what I want, what I don't want, what I need, what I don't need, who I want to surround myself with. People, they're tricky. We're complicated, and people can tell you up and down who they are, but everything is in their actions. My spirituality, my soul, my vibrance, my vibration, my happiness, my serenity, my peace, everything was affected. Even my physical well-being was affected by being in narcissistic relationships. I realized that I had surrounded myself with narcissists and people with high narcissistic tendencies and personalities, and I couldn't understand why I was so unhappy, why I had developed rheumatoid arthritis and my body started attacking itself. I couldn't understand why I would wake up in so much pain every day, and not just physical pain, but the emotional pain was the worst part. Realizing that I'm an empath has been life-changing. Realizing that my soul and my inner light are my guidance has been detrimental to my forward progression. Watching other people who are going through spiritual awakenings and sharing that through YouTube has been astronomically profound in my forward progression. And I just want to thank anyone and everyone who does share their story, because it matters and it does help others to grow and to learn and to change and to be that divine being, that real authentic self that we lose along the way in our codependency, in our selfishness. And I don't mean selfishness in the term of self-care, because selfishness actually is a very good thing. Everyone needs to be more selfish. However, not selfish in the way to exploit others or to gain material possessions or to manipulate others. I feel like there's two different kinds, and that line needs to be drawn between them to understand it. I've been doing a ton of self-care lately. I've been I've taken myself off of all of my medications, and I am healing at an astronomical rate. It is unbelievable the strength and the power that you have inside of yourself to heal yourself. No doctors, no therapists, no nothing in these last 13 years that I've really been seeking help and trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because I've always felt like there was something wrong with me. Even since I was little, I always had ear and throat infections, and I was always on antibiotics, and I always had migraine headaches, and there was always something. I felt like there had to be something wrong with me because I felt different than everybody else. Like, I couldn't just be me because me wasn't acceptable. Growing up, and this isn't a negative on my parents or my upbringing, but the truth of the matter is, in a lot of U.S. households today, people are training their children just as I was trained. And that's to not feel, to not validate your feelings, to not care about what your feelings say. Feelings aren't facts, because I've been in the NA program. I still am. And that's one of their sayings. But that's not true. I mean, feelings are everything. Everything. Feelings are your guidance. But before they can guide you in a positive way and not hinder you with anxiety and depression and fatigue and all these other symptoms that are wrapped up in it, you have to figure out where those stem from, where the core is. Why do you feel this way? What's going on? What's your body trying to tell you? And when you can sit in that silence and say, okay, I feel you. And it's okay. I'm going to just let you be here, and you can tell me what you need to tell me. And I'm going to validate that it is okay to feel this way. And I'm not going to use a substance. I'm not going to use a person. I'm not going to use a chemical. I'm not going to use work, video games, sex. I mean, there's a million ways to not feel your feelings. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, you sit peacefully with that inner child and you talk to it, just like you would being a parent who's being very, very loving and caring towards their child because their child's going through something, or your best friend or a loved one. And you act as if you would if you were responding to them. For me, because I was so codependent, I had to start by doing that. And I was not able to, at first, connect to that inner child inside of me and be able to parent myself through those feelings because I was never taught how. Ever since I was little, I have been looking for external sources to sublet or take out my emotional uneasiness. Because I never knew how to deal with my emotions. I never knew what they were. I'm still trying to identify how I'm feeling at every moment. Because when you suppress them and you ignore your feelings your entire life, you become numb. You don't even know what you feel besides sad, happy, maybe excited. But really, that was the extent of what I felt. And most of the time, I just felt depressed. I felt like there was something in my life, or that there was a greater force around me, that something just wasn't right. This wasn't my path. And I became dependent on all of the people around me. And I allowed them to manipulate me and use me and abuse me and my body and my mind for a really long time. And I could never figure out what felt so wrong. And it's like a pattern, a cycle that just kept repeating itself with every single relationship and friendship and any kind of interaction I had with others. It's like the law of attraction, I attracted people exactly like me into my life. And I was depressed and I was angry and I was an addict and I was miserable and I was self-defeating and I didn't know even what self-care meant. I really didn't. Like when someone said in a video, you must do self-care. You have to figure out what your needs are. Well, it's like, well, I don't know what my needs are. Like, what are they? And I couldn't even connect with that inside of myself. And this coronavirus has given me the best opportunity ever to do a huge deep dive into my past, my present, and my future, and figure out, what does Farron really want? What does Farron really need? And using tools like journaling and meditation and learning and reading and watching videos and connecting to other people that feel like me. That's the only thing that has brought joy and peace back into my life. When I was little, I used to call it bouncing. And I used to sublet my emotions and feelings onto external sources. So first I sucked my thumb and I had my piece, which was a piece of blanket from my baby blanket that I had tied in knots. And I used to hit my brother and sister with it when they were fighting, because I was always the peacemaker and I was always the scapegoat. And I always felt like I had to make everything better. And that was my job. When in fact, that's not a child's job. Soon after that, I started bouncing. And bouncing was what the term that we gave to me rocking back and forth as hard as I can against the couch for hours, sometimes on end. And this would calm me to a state where I could actually take a nap or go to sleep. It was me releasing that negative or positive energy that was inside of me that I didn't know how to get rid of. From there, it stemmed into worse behavior, bad relationships, with narcissists, cutting, bulimia, anorexia, drug addiction, alcoholism, smoking pot, missing school, rebelling, just being what everyone else didn't want me to be. Because I felt like I couldn't live up to the expectations that others had of me anymore. So I just gave up. Like, it was easier just to sublet those emotional processes because honestly, I didn't know how to do anything different. It was all that I knew. And through over 13 years of therapy and group sessions and seeing doctors and psychologists and you name it, I never found the answers that I was looking for. It was always, well, what do you think that means? What do you think that is about? It was never about, well, how does that make you feel? What do those feelings say? Like, where does that all stem from? It never went back in to my heart space. It was always going back to my mind, which had never known how to deal and process those emotions and those feelings in a proper, healthy way. So therefore, me going through that process was never beneficial. It was never fruitful. Like, I knew what the right thing to do was, or like what the answer was to their question. But the question was never going to produce the right answer, if you know what I mean. So in my household growing up, my feelings were never validated. I remember my mom used to tell me that when she would breastfeed me, I would push away from her chest when I was just done and I wanted to go to bed and I just wanted to be by myself as a little infant. And she knew, whenever I did that and pushed on her chest, it meant leave me alone. And I never felt like I got that emotional attachment, that secure attachment from my caregivers, because my father was always away and my mother was extremely stressed out. She had 3 kids. I was told I was the unexpected child. I was not supposed to be there. My mom was going to get her tubes tied when she found out she got pregnant with me. We used to walk into Snyder drugstore, and every time she would point out, not every time, but a lot, she would point out the suppositories she used with my father to try and not get pregnant with me, but they failed. And she'd always warn me, never use these for birth control because they don't work, and I got you. So, as children, you have to be very careful what you say to your children, because they will internalize that and they will begin to believe that they're not worthy, they weren't supposed to be here. It made me feel as if I was unwanted, because as children, it's the extremes. It's black and white, there's no gray. And I was also abused as a child. I outletted a lot of my emotional challenges, we'll say, into unhealthy behavior. And I grew up with this fear, this ball of fear inside of me. And the only way I knew how to get rid of it was to pretend to be what everyone else wanted me to be. So I began to be the perfect child. I got straight A's and I went to school. I came home and I did my homework right away. My mom was at work. My brother and sister were gone. I was the youngest and I was in every sport. I did cheerleading, track, basketball, cross country. You name it. I did it, and I did it to the best of my ability because I felt like if that was perfect, then no one could ever find fault in me. But all that gave me was heartache, pain, and an untrue belief and concept of who I was, which spiraled into a ton of relationships and other behaviors that were very unhealthy. So narcissistic abuse is very, it can be very covert. I didn't even know how to recognize when somebody was manipulating me, gaslighting me, being passive aggressive, because I always wanted to make them feel better. I was always the people pleaser. I was always trying to gain everyone's outside acceptance, and it never worked. And I didn't understand why. I was open and honest with everyone in my life, everyone who walked into it. And I just kept getting hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt. And I began to sublet my emotions and use drugs and alcohol and sex and you name it to feel better. And all it did was make me feel worse, until I learned how to look within and find the light inside of myself. And it is such a process. I am nowhere near completion or the person that I know I was always meant to be, because I'm still healing. But damn, am I proud of how far I've come. And just with that spiritual awakening that has ignited inside of me, I am on fire for anything and everything that will help me understand and gain the tools that I need in order to keep healing. And a lot of it is so simple and so easy as long as you let yourself experience the new. And change is scary. Nobody likes change that I know of. And my life has been a series of crazy, crazy changes, but all for the positive. And they were effortless changes. I mean, I had to put a lot of effort in, like to my move, but it all aligned and I just progressed forward. I changed my job. You know, I'm making twice as much money as I did when I worked for my previous employer. I have made a lot of changes, and those changes all came from within and what I knew I needed to do by listening to myself and getting quiet and getting still and inviting that spiritual guider in to my heart space and letting it be open for the world to see. Now, that doesn't mean that you tell everyone everything about you and you're open with everybody, because not everybody's intentions are pure. Not everybody's intention is to help you and better you and to be open and honest. And I didn't understand that. I didn't get it. I thought everyone was like me in a way, and they're not. I'm still looking for my tribe. You know, I've been doing all of this work for the last 4 months, pretty much solo. I've had some support, but the support that I've had was still through narcissistic relationships because I was still attracting that into my life. And right now, I am just vibrating on my own and holding this positive vibration and growing it. And positive things are being attracted to me every single day. And I know that everything better is manifesting itself right now. And one day soon, whenever that may be, I will find that husband and I will have the children that I want to raise, all in time, when I'm ready, when the universe decides that it is my time and when my heart aligns with that timing. I have suffered from severe anxiety my entire life up until now. I still get bouts of anxiety. Like this morning, I woke up with anxiety. It's my birthday, I'm 33, and then all these thoughts of, oh my gosh, you're so old, and what are you going to do today with the coronavirus, and panic over the stuff that I have to do for the day, and, you know, those thoughts still come in. However, they don't overwhelm me throughout the day, and I know now how to comprehend them and sit with them and meditate through them and find out what they're trying to tell me, you know, where they're stemming from, and if it's factual or if it's just fear-based, because a lot of the time it's just fear-based, because I've never learned up until now how to rely on myself, to trust myself, to believe in myself and my needs and what is best for me and my choices and my decisions, because everybody around me has been telling me that they're not good enough. They're just not enough. And that's not true. That's so far from the truth. So I am just so, so grateful for my life today and for the steps that I've been taking in the right direction. And I don't know. I just thank you for being here with me today. Have a blessed day, and happy birthday, Farron. Bye.